Welcome to Monday service. My name is Yvonne, and I've been saved by Jesus Christ. I was going to say I'm a wretched sinner, but I'm trying to change that part of my mind to believe that I'm saved. I'm no longer living in sin, and I haven't been living in sin. And it really is a blessing by God to be living this life. I used to be a drug addict. I used to be addicted to pornography and masturbation, to alcohol, to lying and cheating and stealing and all sorts of awful things. And by the glory of God, I've been set free of that, and I have not backslid. And I'm just so grateful for that. Every Monday, I read the Bible. And today we're reading Matthew chapter 11, continuing on from where Jesus sent out his disciples. This is Jesus and John the Baptist. After Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and preach in the towns of Galilee. When John, who was in prison, heard about the deeds of the Messiah, he sent his disciples to ask him, "Are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else?" Jesus replied, "Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me." As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. "What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed swayed by the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear fine clothes are in kings' palaces. Then what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, 'I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you.' Truly, I tell you, among those born of women, there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist. Yet whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been subjected to violence, and violent people have been raiding it. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. And if you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. Whoever has ears, let them hear. To what can I compare this generation? They are like children sitting in the marketplace and calling out to others, 'We played the pipe for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not mourn.' For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, 'He has a demon.' The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, 'Here is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners,' but wisdom is proved right by her deeds." Then Jesus began to denounce the towns in which most of his miracles had been performed, because they did not repent. "Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be lifted to the heavens? No, you will go down to Hades. For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Sodom, it would have remained to this day. But I tell you that it will be more bearable for Sodom on the day of judgment than for you." At that time Jesus said, "I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned, and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, this is what you were pleased to do. All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And this chapter is really strange to me because John the Baptist is kind of being exalted by Jesus here. Jesus says that there's no man born by a woman who's greater than John. And yet, what does John do earlier in this chapter? He's in jail, and he asks his disciples to go and see Jesus and ask him, are you really the Messiah? John was the one who said, I'm not worthy to even lace up your shoes to Jesus. He says, you're my Lord. And now he falls into doubt. So Jesus is saying, even the greatest man born of women could fall into doubt. So he says, anyone who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than John. So those in the kingdom of heaven, they're different from us. They're different. John was great among men, but those in the kingdom, they won't doubt. They won't be making these kinds of mistakes. And it's really amazing that John was prophesied about in, where is this? This is Malachi. Malachi is the last book of the Bible before the New Testament. So right at the end of the Old Testament, John is prophesied about. Not just Jesus, but actually John. It says that I will send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way before you. John prepares a way for Jesus. He goes and he baptizes people in the Jordan. And then he makes a way for Jesus to come and be baptized himself so God can speak to him and say, this is my beloved Son in whom I'm greatly pleased. And then Jesus can go and he could start performing miracles. He could be tested in the wilderness. All these things happened because John came. And yet the people, they still don't believe. They have these miracles happening all around them and they don't believe. And Jesus, he goes and denounces all the towns. Jesus actually apparently stayed in this town called Capernaum. And it said that where he stayed, he was not able to perform many miracles because the people did not have faith in him. Jesus says, if these towns of old, which were historically filled with sinners, if they had seen the same miracles these modern towns have seen that I've done in these towns, they would have repented long ago. They would not have been destroyed. They would still be here. But because you don't believe, your punishment will be greater than theirs. Because you have been shown more, you've seen more miracles happen, and yet you still chose to not believe, your punishment will be greater. And there's a lot to break down here. I'm kind of just jumping around. The people, they're awful. I mean, here in verse 18, it says, John came neither eating or drinking, and they said he has a demon. This man who is so pure, he fasted, he didn't drink any alcohol, and they said he has a demon because he was doing these things, right? He was praising God through his body. They said he has a demon. To Jesus, the actual Son of God, who ate with the people, and he drank with the people, and he partook in their pain, they said, he's a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But Jesus tells us, wisdom is proved right by her deeds. In the end, we're going to see who's right. We're going to see. At the end of this chapter, it says that the Father is revealed in the Son. And I'm going to skip a bit of this. Jesus tells us that whoever knows the Son of God, Jesus, you'll also know your Creator. your Father in heaven. But if you don't know the Son, you cannot claim to know the Father either. You cannot know the one who created us without knowing his Son. And only through the Son can you know who the Father is. And almost more important than that to me is these last verses where Jesus tells us, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy and my burden is light." A yoke is put on an animal to plow a field. A yoke has many purposes. In this case, oftentimes animals were yoked together. You'd have two bulls, and one would hold one side and the other would hold the other side, and they would plow the field. There would be a plow attached to this yoke, and they'd be pulling it. These people are burdened, they're suffering. The people, they can't see the truth, and they're oppressed on all sides. And so Jesus says, if you're tired, do the work that I do. This field that he's plowing, do the same work. Take his yoke upon you. It's light. Learn from him. He's gentle and humble in heart. He says that you'll find rest for your souls because his yoke is easy and his burden is light. The burden of Jesus is light. And I can attest to that because Jesus has actually changed my life. I talked about it a little at the start of this video, but he has actually changed my life. Ever since I've accepted him into my life, everything has changed for the better. And it's only because what he says is true. Life with Jesus is easier. It doesn't get harder. There's a lot of things about Christianity that's not easy to accept. Sacrificing your life for others is not something easy to accept, but Jesus says it is easy. And it is easy. It's the thought that keeps us away from it. But when you could put aside the thought and just look at the truth, it is easy to sacrifice yourself. It's hard to satisfy yourself. It's so hard you could never do it. But God has our best intentions in mind. And he knows that when we give ourselves up, knowing that everything comes from him, it's not us, it's all him. Only then are we truly satisfied because our Creator knows exactly what we want in our hearts. Thank you for watching. I hope I see you next week. Bye.